Alright, we're going to go over 4 problems today. Here is the first problem. They said f of x equal ax squared plus bx plus c. For how many values of x does f of x equal to 0? And a, b, and c are constant. This is second degree function, so it's parabola, U-shape, like you see here in the diagram. It's a U-shape. It depends on a. If a is a positive, the parabola open upward. If a is a negative, the parabola open downward, like this one. Okay, so for this problem, we'd like to know for how many values of x f of x is 0. For the first diagram here on the left, do we see f of x equals 0 here? Alright, let's take a look at the graph. So I have here f of x is positive. Say, for example, positive 10. Here is positive 9, positive 8, 7, 6, something like that, right? All values here of f of x, all values of f of x positive. So there is no value for x. I'm going to make f of x is 0 for this diagram, for the first diagram. So here is none. Alright, what about this one, this diagram? Do we have any value for x? Going to make f of x is 0 here? I see here that the graph is touching the x-axis, right, in one point. So we have a 1 value for x. Going to make f of x is 0. F of x here is a negative, 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 0, negative again. So just 1 value. 1 value of x. Gonna make f of x is 0. For the last diagram here, actually we have 2 values for x. Gonna make f of x is 0, which is this value of x. Gonna make f of x 0, and this value. So it's 2 value for x. Gonna make f of x is 0. Alright, let's take a look at the second one here. For the second one, they said bacteria are doubling every 3 hours. If there were 200 cells per milliliter during an initial observation, how many cells per millimeter will be there 15 hours after the initial observation? Okay, so this one is exponential function, and the simple equation for exponential function is y equal a b to the x. So a is the initial amount, which is here the initial amount is 200, and b is the exponential factor. So here they said doubled, so the exponential factor it will be 2, and doubled every 3 hours. How many 15 hours? How many 3 hours in the 15 hours? So that will be 15 over 3. So we have 200 multiplied by 2 raised to the 5, right? 15 over 3 is 5, which is 200 multiplied by 2 to the 5th is 32, and that's gonna give us 6400, and choice D. You can use your calculator, you don't have to do all the steps. So actually from here you can use your calculator and it should give you this number. For the third problem here, which expression is equivalent to that expression? So we're gonna factor, right? Because our multiple choice is factor form. Something multiplied by something, right? It's factor, multiplication. So to factor that binomial, these 2 terms, we're gonna start by taking the greatest common factor. What is the greatest common factor here? If I have a 6x to the 8y squared and I have a 9x cubed y, let's take a look at part by part. Numbers 6 and 9. The greatest common factor it will be the greatest common factor is, for the numbers, it will be 3, right? 3 already in 6, in 9, and in 9. What about the variable x? We have x to the 8. We have x cube. The greatest common factor, I'm going to take x to the third, x cube. For the y, I have y square, and here I have a y, so I'm going to take y. That's the greatest common factor. So our expression, which is 6x to the 8 y square plus 9x cube y equal to 3x cube y, the greatest common factor, open parentheses, and use the descriptive property. 3x cube y times what going to give me the first term? Let's 3 times what? Let's do the number first. 3 times what going to give me 6? 2. X cube times x to what exponents going to give me x to the 8. So remember, when you multiply, what you do to the exponents, you add 3 plus what number going to give you 8? 5. Y multiply by y going to give you y square. So here is the first term, which is 2x to the 5th y plus, right? Plus 3 times what going to give me 9? 3. Already I have x cube here. I have a y here. So that's it. Just multiply by 3, and that should be our final result, the final answer. If you take a look at the multiple choice, you're going to see our answer is C, right? The multiple choice C is the answer. And let's go to the last problem. And always, like I said, you can pause the video and try it yourself first. So for this one, they said a circle in the xy plane has a diameter with endpoint 2, 4 and 6, 8. An equation of this circle is x minus 4 square plus y minus 6 square equal r square, where r is a positive constant. What is the value of r? R is a radius, right? By the way, 4 and 6, 4, 6, that it will be the center, right? The center, because the equation of a circle, it's x minus h square plus y minus k squared equal r square. So the center is hk, and the radius is r. Alright, so they said the diameter between these 2 points. So to get the radius, let's find the diameter first, and I'm divide the result by 2. I get the radius because the radius is half of the diameter. So what is the distance between these 2 points? This is another formula. Distance between 2 points equals the square root of the difference of x square plus the difference of y square. So the distance between this point 2, 4, 6, 8, it will be the difference of x, which is 6 minus 2, 6 minus 2 squared, plus difference of y's, 8 minus 4, 8 minus 4 square, which that going to give us the square root of 4 square, which is 16, plus 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 square is 16, which going to be square root of 32, and you can simplify that. 32 is 16 times 2, which is square root of 16 times square root of 2. Square root of 16 is 4, so that will be 4 radical 2. So the radius r, it will be 2 radical 2, right? Because you divide the distance, which is diameter, by 2 and you get 2 square root of 2. That is our answer for this one.